are these people?
This is a very personal story for all of us. All right. So this is one of the tweets that I made about it, but I'll start by saying that, we've been Assange activists for the better part of 5 years, even since he got let out of prison. There's still a group of activists that stay in touch and network and are connected. And one of the activists who was, yes, the Julian Assanges, one of the activists in the United States who held everyone together was Halo Benson of Oklahoma for Assange. Halo had put together letter writing campaigns and postcard campaigns and went out and protested at her local offices, government offices, and hosted a showing in her local movie theater of Ithaca, which was the documentary that Julian's father and brother had made about him being arrested and the struggle to get him out. And we love Halo's family. About 5 months ago, and Halo has a daughter named Aspen, and Halo, I think, has another kid also. About 5 months ago, Halo reached out and said that Aspen was in some trouble, and we actually talked about it on this show. And we put up her GoFundMe at the time. But Aspen got caught and she got arrested. And we're going to talk about her story, and the eloquent and brilliant Dissent in Bloom, thankfully, listened to me rant and talk about Aspen's story and about what happened, and decided to look into it a little further, research the whole thing, and write herself an article and write everyone an article to really understand just what happened here, what Aspen is facing, and what we might be able to do to help. And so she wrote this article, and we are now all hands on deck trying to share and raise awareness and help raise money for this legal defense fund. The article reads that, quote, the headline, "She was starved, neglected, and degraded, yet she held her humanity." My tweet was that this is a horrifyingly frightening article by Dissent in Bloom about the story of Aspen Martin and her mother, Halo Benson. Please read this and help if you can. Sharing is one way that everyone can help, even if you don't have funds to contribute. There have been a good amount of quotes, tweets, and retweets. Lisa, who's saying we must help Aspen, please do everything you can. And Charlie Mack, amazing. Kieran Pine, who's here in chat. But I also wanted to put, this was my other quote tweet. This is literally the worst case nightmare scenario for any parent. I'm going to set this up this way. Imagine that your daughter gets into what turns out to be the wrong car, set up by someone that she implicitly trusted. And she's now likely facing decades in a federal prison for drug trafficking. So we're going to read this story, and we'll go through exactly what happened here. So again, dissentinbloom.substack.com. This is the story of an autistic woman of color, Aspen, who was failed by Peach County, Georgia. Facing around 33 years or more in prison, she's locked in a legal fight against a system that continues to harm people. She starts that when a young woman left Oklahoma in May, she thought she was taking a short trip to visit friends. It was a chance to see familiar faces who had since moved away from home, an opportunity to clear her head. She's only 27. Her name is Aspen. She's autistic, an artist, an activist, and a quiet soul who tries to see the good in people no matter what. But within days, that trip she'd been looking forward to had become a nightmare. After a music festival in Florida, the RV she was riding in was pulled over on a highway in Peach County, Georgia. Officers claimed they smelled marijuana. By nightfall, she was locked inside a rural jail she'd never heard of, accused of trafficking drugs she didn't own or even know about, and trapped inside a system that didn't understand her and didn't care to.
Have you been smoking marijuana?
For 15 days, she'd endured starvation, humiliation, and medical neglect. She lost 9 pounds in 2 weeks. A lifelong vegetarian, she was denied truly meat-free meals and grew violently ill from the little food they give her When the jail ran out of toilet paper and pads, a common occurrence there, her mother offered to donate supplies. The sheriff's office refused. She's home now on bail, but not free. Released on bond in June, she waits for the next court date. Her life suspended between hearings and legal bill invoices. The fight didn't end at the jail door. It just got more expensive. If convicted, Aspen could face up to 33 years in prison for a crime she didn't commit. She would become a convicted felon, which means she would also lose her voting rights, whatever voting rights mean at this point. Her family's created a GoFundMe to attempt to raise money for the trial, but has only been able to get a fraction of the money needed for legal representation so far. In a facility that boasts recreational and medical services, she found neither. And I'm going to show that GoFundMe for a second here. I'm going to put the link to the GoFundMe in here. That was as of last night. We had raised over $3,600, and now that is up to over $3,800, which raised more than $2,000 since this article published yesterday. So my goodness, thank you to everyone who has contributed. It makes a light year of difference. Light years. How did we get here? It started as something good. A road trip, a little escape. Aspen had been working on art, trying to recover from burnout, and needed to change the scenery. She was planning to enroll in college for criminal psychology in the fall. So when her best friend, who had since moved away, had invited her to stay with them for a couple weeks to join them at a music festivals for the summer, it felt like the first breath of freedom that she'd had in months. She packed light, her art supplies, a few clothes, her medication. The plan was to dance under the sun, see the people she hadn't seen in years, then head back home at the end of the summer. But on the way back from a Florida music festival, everything changed. They were driving through Georgia. The highway stretched wide and empty, that's Highway 75, when flashing lights appeared behind them. The officers said they smelled marijuana. They pulled over the RV and searched it, tore through bags and boxes, and found drugs that didn't belong to her. She told officers she knew nothing about it. The man driving the RV told them too. He told the magistrate too. Didn't matter. Everyone inside was charged with trafficking. This is despite the fact that Georgia doesn't have an actual party law saying that they had to do that. They just did it because they could. Aspen ended up locked inside a small county jail she'd never heard of. She tried to explain that she was autistic, that she needed her medication, that she didn't understand what was happening, but the system didn't care. To them, she was another body in a cell, another case number. Now, months later, Aspen's home, but stuck in the purgatory of the criminal process. Endless delays, paperwork, and costs that bleed her family dry. She's facing up to 33 years in prison for trusting the wrong person. By the way, as Dissent in Bloom says, she's in chat, those are pics from the actual jail.
Right.
Her mother, Halo, is fighting to keep her daughter from slipping back into a system that already broke her once. Every call to a lawyer is another bill. Every delay feels like a threat. All of this, a trip, a stop, a jail, a bond, for something she didn't do. She was a passenger. That's how easily it happens in America. One highway, one search, one accusation, and suddenly your life belongs to the state. 15 days. That's all it took to break her body and teach her what the state of Georgia calls correction, quote unquote. She was processed, stripped, placed into a paper-thin county jumpsuit and forgotten. The cell was small, the air freezing cold at all times. She couldn't tell if it was morning or night, if the world outside still existed. They weren't allowed outdoors, not even once. I've never heard of that. And the windows were covered in dark security film that sealed them off from the sun, from time itself. The days blurred together. There were no clocks in her cell, no sunlight, no change in temperature. Just the same fluorescent hum and freezing air that left her bones aching. Every meal was a battle between hunger and nausea. By the end of 2 weeks, she'd lost 9 pounds. When she needed medical help, it became another fight. She asked for an ibuprofen for a migraine in the morning and didn't get it until bedtime. She asked for a rescue inhaler for asthma, and it never came, even though the nurse told her mother that she'd been given one. This is a prime example of why people die in Peach County. She had to fight to receive her B12 injections for chronic pernicious anemia, the one thing her body can't survive without. The nurse refused to speak to her mother, citing HIPAA, but wouldn't let Aspen sign the release form that would have made communication legal. Her mother eventually had to hire a lawyer just to get her medical care. And even then, the nurse resisted the attorney's request. That cost thousands that they didn't have. In her pod, which is the common area, there was another woman. Someone with severe developmental disabilities who seemed lost most of the time, unable to follow what was happening around her. Aspen said it was like watching a child trapped in a place meant to break adults. Even after she got out, she couldn't stop thinking about this woman. One of the first things she told her mother after being released was that they have to try to get that girl help. And by the way, I interviewed them this week, and they said the same thing to me. Because even after everything she'd endured, the cold, the sickness, the hunger, Aspen was still worried about someone else. The first thing she asked her mother to do once released on bail was to help that girl. By the way, incarcerated people with cognitive disabilities are more likely to be placed in solitary confinement, denied medical care, and ignored when they ask for help. Remember that Julian is also autistic and was put in solitary for years. The Bureau of Justice Statistics states that nearly a quarter of all prisoners report a cognitive disability, yet, of course, few jails have training for sensory needs. Sadly, this statistic rang true in Aspen's case. Jail wasn't just confinement, it was sensory chaos. The kind of environment that turns sound, light, and human cruelty into physical pain. The lights never dimmed. The buzz of the fluorescent fixtures burned through her eyelids even when she tried to sleep. Every clang of a metal door hit her like a shockwave. For most people, these sounds fade into background noise, but for her, they were sharp and endless, a wall of noise that she couldn't shut out. They didn't see her autism. They saw defiance. They didn't see sensory overload. They saw attitude. Even simple communication broke down. She processes language literally and slowly when under stress, as do most of us, but the jail moved fast and punished hesitation. The guards didn't care if she didn't understand or needed time to process what they'd said. They took her silence as disrespect. Another statistic that 4.4% of inmates meet criteria for autism spectrum disorder, a rate about 4 times higher than in the general population. Yet accommodations for people with this disability often don't exist in jails. The system was not built to accommodate people like Aspen. It was built to crush them, to kill them. Autism changes how the world is processed. For people like us, and again, Dissent in Bloom is also autistic, every sound is louder, every smell stronger, every rule less clear. When guards barked orders or changed routines without warning, it left her disoriented and terrified of doing something wrong. She was in a strange place in a land far away from home. The lack of structure, the lack of familiarity, the constant punishment, the mocking when she asked questions, it all stripped away her ability to regulate, to think, and to breathe. And her time there was filled with sound. The sounds of clanking metal and screaming. The sound of fists pounding against steel doors and men fighting in the ward next to hers and violence echoing through concrete for what felt like forever. When she realized someone could be hurt, she banged on her door trying to get help. She felt it deeper than others may have. Autistic people have an instinct to protect and stand up for what's right. That's called justice sensitivity. It's a feeling that won't let them stay silent when someone is suffering. It's almost visceral. They can't help themselves. So she hit the door again and again until her hands hurt to get help. Even then, it took ages for anyone to come. In Peach County Jail, noise was the only way to get help, banging on the door. Georgia's prisons, by the way, are so dangerous and mismanaged that they routinely violate inmates' constitutional rights, allowing rampant violence and sexual abuse. Gangs control much of the system, while understaffing and corruption let the abuse continue unchecked. It's literally hell. Now she gets into just why this is allowed to happen. We talk about the fiefdom of Georgia jails. Peach County Jail isn't just a building, it's a kingdom. And the man who runs it isn't a warden. He's a constitutional officer with powers older than most of the laws that govern him. His office sits in the same building as the jail, giving him near total control over what happens inside. See, in Georgia, the sheriff isn't a county employee. He is a state constitutional officer listed in the Georgia Constitution as independent from local government. That independence means he alone controls the jail's policies, staff, and medical care. The county pays the bills, but cannot tell him how to spend them. His name is Robert Buck Shannon. He took office this year, but the jail's reputation, of course, didn't start with him. The abuses predate his tenure by decades. Peach County, Georgia, is a place where people die from medical neglect and guards sexually assault inmates. It's a carceral system where the DOJ released a 93-page document of the unconstitutional conditions in 2024, including inmates being abused and subjected to violence. That is Buck Shannon. But the new sheriff, Shannon, he promised reform. He talked about focusing on mental health, about hope, and about fixing what was broken. But inside Peach County Jail, it seems like nothing ever changed at all but the name on the sheriff's door. Something else that Dissent and Bloom found is that Georgia, if someone dies, is starved, or denied medical treatment, or in Georgia, the county will claim that it's not responsible. Victims can't sue the state either because Georgia protects itself under sovereign immunity. So when the sheriff acts in his official capacity, the law says he represents the state, and the state can't be sued unless it chooses to be. It almost never does. It's insane when you realize what that means. The jail and the sheriff report to the state of Georgia, and the state is responsible. The state gave itself immunity, and the sheriff operates under that protection. You can't sue the county. It's not responsible. You can't sue the state. It decided it doesn't have to answer for anything. It's a self-cleaning system of abuse, which is exactly what happened in 2022 under the previous sheriff. Inmate Maurice Campbell died in Peach County custody after staff ignored repeated pleas for medical care, and his family sued. They said that the staff watched his mental health collapse. They ignored signs of kidney failure and never sent him to a hospital. His family sued, arguing that his death was caused by Peach County's own policy and procedure for medical aid for inmates. The court dismissed it. They said county wasn't responsible. The sheriff was immune under the state sovereignty laws. And the state deemed his death a bureaucratic tragedy rather than a constitutional one. This is exactly why we have to help Halo fight for her daughter, Aspen. She doesn't belong in a system like this one that starves, isolates, and abandons people with medical conditions that it doesn't understand or care about. Her body already paid the price once. 15 days was enough to show how little that place cares for anyone's survival, let alone someone like her. Halo's doing everything she can, but she's one person against an entire system built to grind people down and hold themselves unaccountable. Even public accountability is locked away. The Peach County Jail's Google reviews are disabled. No one can post, and no one can warn others, and no one can speak. How convenient. So where does this leave us now? When a system is built to shield itself from accountability, why do I hear myself in your thing? Get close.
I don't know. You shouldn't.
I hear echo. When a system is built to shield itself from accountability, stories like Aspen's stop being accidents. They become policy. Georgia's jails operate like kingdoms, each sheriff ruling their own fiefdom under the protection of sovereign immunity. When someone dies, when someone is starved or denied care, the county shrugs, the state hides behind its own laws, and the cycle repeats. Aspen survived, barely. That was only 15 days in. She came home with her body thinner, her faith smaller, and her future put on hold. The degree she wanted to earn, in criminal psychology of all things, feels almost like a cruel irony now. She wanted to understand how people became trapped in the system. Instead, the system came for her. Also, if she's convicted or, if she's got this on her record, she can never become a criminal psychologist. It literally negates her from having the job she wanted. Halo, her mother, is still fighting. God love her, and we do. Not just for her daughter's case, but for the idea that what happened in Peach County shouldn't happen to anyone. Not to another autistic woman, not to another person with a disability, not to another soul whose humanity gets lost in bureaucracy. Georgia won't reform itself. It never does. Change will only come when people stop pretending these stories are isolated, when the names stop being forgotten, and when we treat survival as the beginning of justice, not the end of it. Aspen's story isn't over. It's a warning. Georgia needs a change, and it needs it yesterday. Disabilities like autism deserve to be understood by a legal system that doesn't weaponize ignorance or hide behind immunity. And when she asked if she had a message for the world, Aspen responded that this could happen to anyone, which is true. She didn't do anything wrong except get in the wrong car, and she can face up to 33 years in prison for something she didn't do. There has to be accountability. There has to be care. It shouldn't take a fucking lawyer to get medical treatment, and no one should have to die to prove that the system is broken. Next Saturday, this coming Saturday night, we're going to live stream it, an interview with me and her mother and Aspen and her mom, Halo. Okay, we'll be live streamed here on Dissent and Bloom Substack. We're going to co-stream it there as well. I highly encourage you to listen to their story. Aspen also told me a story about when they pulled her over on Highway 75. She has a condition where she needs to use the bathroom, and she asked to go back into the RV to use the bathroom. The cop told her no and go on the side of the road, and not forced her, but if she wanted to go, which she had to pull her pants down and urinate on the side of the Highway 75. Georgia State Trooper made her do that. Fucking disgraceful. Halo. This is Halo's tweet with her GoFundMe, pinned to @HaloBenson on Twitter. Aspen, my daughter, is facing devastating charges after a trip gone wrong. We need to raise $7,500 for her defense. Please help us and share her story. Every bit counts. And like I said, the people who read this have been amazing. I went to bed with a big smile on my face the other night and a warm heart, because we more than doubled what was sitting in her GoFundMe. And I'm going to refresh it now. There's $38.22 sitting there right now. And looks like we got another $100. So thank you to whoever just recently put in the 100. Misty, of course, was the first donation. We got a $500 donation last night. And Natalie Williams, of course, it was Natalie. We love you. Thank you so much, really. Natalie's the best of us. Wow. And yeah, I got to sit and talk with them for the better part of an hour. We're also planning on a fundraising live stream. I'm going to announce the details on that Saturday night before and after our one-on-one airs. And actually, if you were watching last night, it mistakenly ended up going out in place of my one-on-one with Shanda on the Beauty and the Boomer channel, and then made private afterwards. But for the 15 or 20 people that did get to see it there, you got to sneak preview. We love you. Thank you for bearing with us through that. But I love Halo, and I'm heartbroken by this. I'm a father, and a father of daughters who I listened to a radio host by the name of Colin Cowherd, and Colin had talked a long time ago about how one of the things he was most afraid of and that he couldn't control was his kids getting in the wrong car with someone. And this is literally the worst case of someone getting in the wrong car that I've ever heard.
Especially with ride sharing being a thing now, you know?
Well, yes, but this was...
I don't know if that Uber receipt would give you the fucking out that they, you know...
Well, no, this was going on a ride out through multiple states in an RV with a friend that she allegedly was trusting. And...
Yeah, but still, I mean, any of that could be... Like, you get pulled over in your Uber, you know? Like... But yeah.
Meadow Mama Sue says there are endless horror stories. There's another one that's horrific. All right. And that's from Houston. Kieran Pine, thank you for the organizing and all the work that you're doing to help bring everyone together to work to raise some money to support Aspen's legal defense fund and provide moral support also to let her know that there is a family of people behind her that most people don't have. And Aspen and Halo were so grateful and did not take for 1 second for granted the fact that there is a massive group of people here to support them that a lot of people don't necessarily have. Cindy,
which all this over marijuana is so stupid.
Well, it wasn't just over marijuana, because when they searched the vehicle, they found a lot more hard drugs in the thing, but he didn't even know they were in the vehicle, let alone that the person that drove them was selling them at festivals and that this was a thing. She had no idea. Yeah. She never would have gone. She was lied to. She was manipulated and put in a position where she's now facing decades and losing most of her adult future for trusting the wrong guy who was a family friend. It's just awful. I mean, just in so many ways, I feel so awful for her. And I'm doing what I can in both hosting them for a one-on-one, in amplifying this story for them, in telling my friends about it, and being lucky enough and amazing enough person that Dissent in Bloom is to listen to me complaining and screaming about this, that she decided to write this and help get Aspen some financial relief, even if it's just a little bit. Halo also talked about how she spent 2 weeks sleeping in her car. Those 15 days that Aspen was in jail, Halo drove to the county lockup and she slept in her car at night while she tried to organize getting things. So maybe some of this GoFundMe money helps to pay for a hotel room for a couple of nights for her during a trial that may happen. They have to pay for experts. They have to pay for so many things, including, of course, the lawyers. And we're looking at tens of thousands of dollars, possibly. So again, thank you to everyone, especially to Dissent in Bloom for writing this article and for raising awareness to her audience about Aspen, because this happens to so many people that don't get somebody writing an article about them for it. and they disappear in the system. Man, that was heavy, I know. Thank you for bearing with me. So we're not going to be remonetized for telling a story like that either. If you're able to and it means, please donate to Halo's and Aspen's fund. So there are ways to support here, but right now I would actually rather you give to their GoFundMe. And that link will be in the description afterwards. So I'm not even going to go through the names and the stuff, but I think that, that what's appropriate there is to ask people to contribute to her legal fund. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. I love you all. We'll see you soon, fam.
Bye. Have a great time.
Hasta la vista, baby. I'll be back.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say?